Hi, my name is Den Dimas, and let's talk about motorcycle as an investment.
The motorcycle industry is big in Indonesia, with a worth of over 6 billion rupiah. Every year, major motorcycle brands roll out the latest and best models. But for many enthusiasts, their eyes are set on the past. Nowadays, vintage motorcycles from the 70s, 80s, and even as recent as the 2000s fetch a hefty price tag on the market. How viable are these rare bikes as an investment option?
Before I became a content creator, I was a consultant, but I'm always been a automotive enthusiast since I was maybe in the early elementary school. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a long time now. So the phenomenon of these classic or vintage cars or bikes exploded during the COVID time because some people had a lot of money, but they cannot travel, so they have like a lot of cash and they want to spend the money. And yeah, and so vintage bikes or cars were the options. So that's when we saw the boom in the price of the classic cars and bikes. I would say not all classic cars or bikes will increase in the value or price. Some of them, yes, some of them are increasing very well, but some, just like my friend said, that not all stone are gold, only some that can like increase or retain their value quite well. One example is of course Vespa, and the bike itself has to be rare, but cannot be very rare, because then if the bike is very rare or limited, the price will be so high that not all people can afford, and of course the spare part will also be very limited. So from my experience and based on my discussion with my friends, the bikes that can go up in value actually are the bikes that it's rare but not very rare. The bike that is quite affordable in some perspective, so it's not like the super duper expensive. Well, one great example will be the Vespa SS90. That bike is limited to around a few thousands in the world, so it's not like extremely rare like one or two bikes in the world. There are still a few thousands. In Indonesia, there are maybe almost 100, I would say. So as you can see, with that kind of number, the demand is high, but the supply is quite low, but not very low. So people can still afford it. Some people can still afford it, and that bike itself, maybe I would say before COVID was around 200 to 300. After COVID, like right now, maybe it's around 7 or 800 million rupiah. Yeah, so that is one example of Vespa that jumps in value quite high. But other kind of Vespa, like I would say Vespa Sprint, like from the 70s, or Vespa from the 80s, they are now also slowly increasing in value. Just because it's getting rare, and again, as like I said before, still a lot of people can afford it. The spare parts are still there, so people can like restore it as many times as they want. So yeah, that's are the few examples that I can think about. There are a few factors, of course, but one major players, I will say, social media. People follow their friends, people follow each others, and when one of their friends suddenly posting a bikes that they have, and it's a Vespa maybe, for example, the other friends wants to have it, and then this other friend starts to looking for the Vespa. And so this kind of like snowballing effect that actually increased the price of the bikes. And yeah, I mean, the Vespa itself is very beautiful to look at. It has a strong brand, the community is very strong as well. A lot of there are a lot of Vespa communities in Indonesia, so that also helps the popularity of Vespa amongst bike enthusiasts. Yeah, so Mio was kind of like an anomaly as well. It suddenly jumps in price quite high in the past few months or year. I would say one of the reasons is also because it's some kind of a revenge, I would say. So let's take an example, a guy in the early 30s right now. Maybe when he was in junior high or in high school, he really wants to have Mio, but he didn't have the money back then. Now he's in the early 30s, he has all the money that he have. He wants to spend that money on the bike that he was dreaming back in high school. So now he bought it, he has a lot of money. Now he put all these accessories, expensive accessories on the bike, and suddenly the bike became famous again. So usually a bike or a car will go famous again after like 20 or 30 years, just because those people who were in high school who didn't have money, now they are working, they have money, they can buy it. Sometimes that also increases the value of the car or the bike itself. In the case of Mio, some bikes can go up to like 20-30 million. It's also because it's quite expensive and tiring to restore one bike. Sure, we can get a bike like a decent one for like 5 million rupiahs or 4 million rupiahs, but to make it like as new as it would getting out from the dealer, one person can spend almost like 10 to 15 million to restore it. So yeah, so that's why a good example, like a pristine example of restored Mio, can go up to like 20-30 million. And some people will buy it because they don't have time to restore it. They don't want to get in the hustle of finding all the parts and everything. They just want a good looking bike they can use straight away. That's why some people will still buy that kind of Mio. Yes, I will say actually it won't cost that much. I mean, again, let's take an example of Vespa. The spare parts are still there, and it's a very easy to maintain bike. But again, you know, a classic bike, if you don't ride it, it might actually broken. You know, maybe the gasoline will get expired in the tank. Then you have to clean the tank and maybe change the tank. You clean the carburetors and everything. That takes a lot of time and money as well. And you have to change tires and everything. If you compare it to like a Gold or a stock, it can take care of itself. So, you know, maintaining a bike, even if you don't ride it, will cost you money. Maybe it's not much, but still it will cost you money. So might as well just get a bike because you like to ride it, or just because you like it, not for the investment sake. Let's say a Vespa from the 1980s or 1985. That will be a Vespa PX. For the past 1 year, maybe I spent around 500,000 rupiah to a million. So maybe compared to the price of the bike itself, it's not much, but still though, you know, putting out 1 million each year for a one bike is, you know, you can feel it. I would say bikes that are now maybe 15 to 20 years old will now getting high in value, just because 15 to 20 years ago, as I said before, this type of customers, they were in high school, they didn't have like, you know, their own money. Now they have money to spend, so now they will try to find their old dream bike to get. So yeah, I would say maybe 15 years ago, yeah, a bike from like 2005, 2006, maybe like an NSR or a Ninja. That's why we see a price hike in that kind of bike right now. once you have that mindset that a bike is an investment, you don't really want to ride the bike. You don't want to touch it. You don't want to ride it. Therefore, you cannot enjoy it. I think bike as an investment is just a bonus. A bike is still a bike. You have to ride it to enjoy it. If it goes up in value, then yeah, it's a bonus. If it's not, then you still can enjoy it riding it as a bike. Again, I would say if you get a bike, just enjoy it how you like it. Don't really put your mind on like, I want to get a return on this bike. If you want to get a return, I would say just get a gold or buy stock. It's much easier to get a return on it.
Arya Siddhartha and Nico Arianto for See Today.